Part 1 was the spark. Part 2 is the explosion. We've seen how the US wants to use Bitcoin and stablecoins to keep its money power alive, but now the rest of the world is reacting, and not kindly. China is building its own digital money and blocking US coins. BRICS countries are making new money backed by gold and oil. Europe is trying to catch up, but falling behind. And stablecoins? They're becoming tools that can control what you buy and where you spend. The fight over money is turning into a global battle, and it's about to get intense. Global reactions. Who opts in? Who opts out? From my vantage, this is where the real chess game begins. You don't rewrite the rules of global money without ruffling the feathers of empires in waiting. The US move is calculated. Use stablecoins as digital tentacles of dollar hegemony. But the world is catching on. Fast. China, for instance, doesn't just oppose US stablecoins, it outright bans them. In 2021, the People's Bank of China criminalized cryptocurrency transactions and accelerated the rollout of the eCNY, a central bank digital currency already trialed in 260 million wallets by 2024. The goal? Absolute control over currency flows and total insulation from US-anchored rails. Russia, reeling from sanctions and dollar exclusion, has its own response: commodity-backed digital units. In 2023, the Bank of Russia tested a digital ruble, but behind the curtain, it was Gazprom and Rosatom exploring tokenized oil and uranium settlement layers, units tied to real exports, not policy paper. Then there's the BRICS coalition. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, now joined by Iran, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, have openly floated the idea of a blockchain-based trade currency backed by a basket of gold, oil, and agricultural output. As of late 2024, BRICS accounted for 42% of global oil production. That's not speculation, that's leverage. Meanwhile, Europe's trying to keep up. The MyCA Framework Markets and Crypto Assets Regulation was finalized in 2023, setting legal clarity for euro-based stablecoins, but adoption has lagged. Only 6 billion euros in euro stablecoins circulate globally, compared to $112 billion in dollar stables. The message is loud. The euro has structure, but no traction. And here's what keeps me up at night. The more effective US stablecoins become, the more they look like financial colonialism 2.0, permissioned rails, embedded compliance, and geopolitical control via smart contracts. SWIFT was fast, but USDC is instant and sanctionable. The US won't need aircraft carriers if it can freeze your economy at the wallet level. From a systems view, it's brilliant. From a sovereignty view, it's terrifying. Because now, every nation has to ask, do we opt in to this new digital Bretton Woods or build around it? And I guarantee you, some of them are already doing both. Up next, we step back to the long view. Because if this is a currency shift, it's not the first. Let's talk reserve transitions, where they end and how long before this one breaks. A new reserve currency race. I've studied the fall of empires long enough to know one thing. Reserve currencies don't last forever. They stretch until they snap. Roughly every 80 to 100 years, history resets the scoreboard. In the 15th century, it was Portugal with its spice trade empire and naval dominance. That baton passed to Spain in the 1500s, backed by New World silver. By the 1600s, the Dutch guilder reigned supreme, underwritten by the first real bond market and the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. Then came Britain. The pound sterling ruled from the 1700s through World War I, backed by colonial tribute and the strength of the Royal Navy. But by 1944, at Bretton Woods, it was America's turn. The US held 2/3 of the world's gold supply and 50% of global industrial output. The dollar wasn't just strong, it was inevitable. But inevitability has a shelf life. Since the 1971 Nixon shock, when the US dropped the gold peg, the dollar's power shifted from backing to demand. OPEC oil priced in dollars, Treasury bonds became the new gold. But now, that system is under pressure from within. According to the US debt clock, unfunded liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, pensions have soared past $175 trillion. Not total debt. Just the promises we've made that have no funding path. Meanwhile, global debt to GDP is sitting at 336%, per the Institute of International Finance. That's $315 trillion in global debt in a world economy that only produces $100 trillion a year. When debt reaches those levels, you don't pay it back. You inflate it away, or restructure the entire system. Which brings us back to stablecoins. Stablecoins, in theory, extend the shelf life of dollar dominance. They expand the dollar's reach digitally, even as its foundations crack. They embed demand for treasuries even as traditional buyers, China, Japan, private banks, back away. In 2023, foreign central bank holdings of U.S. Treasuries fell to a 22-year low, down to $7.3 trillion from a peak of $7.7 trillion in 2021. So who's the buyer of last resort? That's the quiet trick. The Fed doesn't need to buy every bond if retail stablecoin users do it for them. A dollar-pegged stablecoin backed by T-bills is just a proxy for voluntary debt purchase. Mallers wasn't exaggerating. Bitcoin goes up, stablecoins grow, treasury demand soars. You get Bitcoiners funding the US deficit while trying to escape it. It's elegant. It's contradictory. It's pure genius. But it's also a race against time. Because if another currency or basket or decentralized unit achieves network escape velocity, the dollar's era won't end with a bang. It'll vanish digitally, one transaction at a time. Code, surveillance, and control. When I first studied the mechanics of programmable money, it felt like reading the blueprints for a digital panopticon. Not because stablecoins were inherently evil, no, they were neutral. But like all tools, it depends who holds the key. Most people see stablecoins as a convenience, dollars that move at the speed of the internet, 24/7, borderless. But beneath that utility is something far more profound, and more dangerous. Because when your money is digital, programmable, and centrally issued, control shifts from economics to code. Let's talk facts. Today's most popular stablecoins, USDT and USDC, together settle over $18 trillion annually. That's already more volume than Visa. In 2023 alone, over $11 trillion flowed through Tether. These aren't niche assets, they're global liquidity rails. But here's what few understand. Stablecoins are built on smart contracts, and smart contracts can carry conditions, expiration dates, geographic restrictions, spending categories. If this sounds dystopian, you're not paranoid, you're paying attention. Because in January 2024, the US Treasury issued new draft guidance encouraging wallet-level KYC for stablecoin users. Not just issuers, users. That means the money in your wallet could require a biometric verification to move. Contrast this with Bitcoin, immutable, permissionless, decentralized. It doesn't care who you are or where you live. That's a feature, not a bug. It's no coincidence that while Bitcoin remains an open protocol, stablecoins are becoming compliance-first assets, reflections of their issuers bound by jurisdiction. I recall an NSA white paper from 1996. Yes, they were already modeling this. It warned of digital bearer instruments becoming dual use, useful for finance but also for total surveillance. 30 years later, here we are. The promise of stablecoins is access. The peril is programmable obedience. If Bretton Woods gave us fixed exchange rates and the petrodollar gave us energy leverage, then stablecoins give us code-enforced allegiance. No court orders, no delays, just line after line of solidity dictating what you can do with your paycheck. This isn't hypothetical. The US tested an expiry feature in a trial CBDC program in 2022. China already does this with ECNY stimulus, spending deadlines, regional locks. If the US adopts similar tools, every citizen's wallet becomes a programmable tax ledger. Stablecoins are a mirror. On one side, inclusion. On the other, invisible rails of control, subtle, quiet, and absolute. The question is no longer can this happen. It's already being built. The question now is, will we notice before the last permissionless dollar vanishes from circulation? Escape velocity or monetary dead end? I remember the first time I saw a stablecoin white paper describe itself as a bridge to a new monetary order. It sounded bold, almost utopian. But now, after years studying this arc, I see the deeper irony. The bridge leads both forward and back into a cage. Let me explain. The Genius Act is being sold as an innovation milestone, a regulatory green light for stablecoins to flourish under US protection. But this isn't just innovation for innovation's sake, it's economic triage. The US faces a $175 trillion pile of unfunded liabilities. That's Social Security, Medicare, military pensions, obligations mathematically impossible to meet without massive currency debasement. Debt to GDP crossed 130%, and the interest payments alone, over $1 trillion annually, now exceed defense spending. We're past the point of mild corrections. So what's the play? Create a global demand engine for Treasuries via stablecoins, embed them in every crypto app, every fintech wallet, every international remittance platform. Let the market chase yield, 5% on T-bills backed by algorithmic collateral, and in doing so, let them fund US deficits voluntarily. It's brilliant, it's efficient, and it buys time. But here's the paradox. The same mechanism that stabilizes the dollar in the short term plants the seeds of long-term instability. Because as more nations build alternatives, commodity-backed tokens, regional digital currencies, non-USD stablecoins, the trust that props up the system begins to erode. China's ECNY already reaches 400 million users, and its use in cross-border trade is expanding, especially among Belt and Road partners. Russia has tested tokenized gold rubles. Even Latin America is exploring peso crypto hybrids backed by natural resources. They see what we all see, that the dollar is no longer a neutral medium, its policy, its politics, its power, expressed through code. And then there's Bitcoin. In a twist few expected, the US is now incentivized to let Bitcoin appreciate. Why? Because rising BTC prices collateralize more stablecoins, which in turn buy more treasuries. It's fiscal dominance, just with digital lipstick. I've heard skeptics ask, won't that make Bitcoin too powerful? Maybe. But the logic of debt leaves few alternatives. Either you tighten and collapse the economy, or you print and ride the asset wave. What's emerging isn't a revolution, it's a managed mutation. The system is adapting, not reforming. But here's what keeps me up at night. Stablecoins may delay the fall of the dollar, but they can't undo the math. They're lifeboats tied to a leaking ship. The question isn't whether this buys time, it will. The question is, what do we do with that time? And who controls the clock? The system's changing, and most won't see it until it's too late. But you do. Stay curious, stay ahead, more deep dives coming. Subscribe for the next revelation with me, Nate Ledger.